Call the meeting to order. First point of the day is the agenda for today. Dan moves approval of the May 14th, 2024 agenda as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Next up is the minutes from the April 9th, 2024 meeting. Any discussion or omissions, errors? Nigel moves approval of the April 9th minutes as presented. All those in favor? Carried. So first application for consideration today is Ward 4 time extension request DP 21-262 and DP 21-263. Is there a representative here for those applications? Would you take one of the chairs up front, please? I'm not sure if you've been here before. Do you know the drill? Okay, all right. And you're Jennifer then, are you?
That's right, I'm Jennifer.
Okay, all right. Okay, Aaron, do you want to take this, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just provide a brief overview of this, the timeline of this project. The Dunmore Solar project was initially approved by AUC back in September 2021. We approved the development permits for Dunmore Solar project on April 12th, 2022. And after the permit was approved, Dunmore Solar had been doing some grading and geotech work on the site, so the project was kind of commenced. It was basically commenced. So the permit was valid until April 2024. So the permit therefore is coming to MPC for an extension, and Dunmore Solar has made progress regarding meeting the conditions of approval and getting this project moving forward. I believe they've procured a lot of the equipment, and they have I believe they provided us with an emergency management plan, and also the provincial government's pause on renewables slowed things down and seems to be creating some uncertainty. But what I can do is we are recommending that the permit be extended to April 19th, 2025, as requested by the applicant. And that will conclude my brief presentation.
Thank you, Aaron. Ms. Treichel, would you like to speak to this application?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, just to add to that, the project was set to go to construction March, April of this year. And it wasn't so much the pause on renewables that gave the project pause, just because the project was already approved. It was more the announcement of the restructured energy market, and that caused a bit of a ripple in the financial community. And because the developer is overseas and not familiar with Alberta's market, they elected to pause and just evaluate financially for a few months. They were set to go to construction. Like I said, they had the substation constructor and the solar farm contractors procured. The main power transformer for the substations procured. It was, set to go. We had our seating plan prepared and everything, but they decided to just pull back and delay till this fall. And so construction now is set to start with site preparation, primarily with the substation in October of this year. And so that's why we're requesting the extension.
Thank you. I'll open the floor to discussion.
We approved it once, so.
Go ahead, Dan.
I guess we approved it once, so there shouldn't be anything different. It should be. You're good till April 19th then? That'll be enough extension for you?
Yeah, correct, because we would need to begin construction by April 19th, 2025, and then I think we have 2 years to complete. Yeah, so that's great. And we will be submitting a time extension to the Alberta Utilities Commission probably at the end of this month, because our completion date with the commission is May I'm just trying to think if it's May 31st or March 31st, 2020, 2024, 2025. And so we're just going to ask to extend that another year. And once we receive that, we'll pass along, obviously, to the county.
Moving it? Okay. Okay, so Lloyd moves approval of, we have to do it one at a time here. You okay, Michelle?
Yeah.
Do you need a recess? No. Okay, all right. Okay, so Lloyd moves approval of 21-262 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Before I read the approval statement, let's do 21-263. Amanda moves approval of 21-263 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. So your development permit has been approved subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within the 21-day time period, it will become valid at that time. If you have any further questions, you may contact the development officer after today's meeting to discuss them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So excuse me. Next item for consideration is development permit 2437. That is Ward 7. Jennifer Lee Hayes. Would you take one of the chairs up front, please, Jennifer? So there's a red button, or button you press, it turns red when you're requested to speak. Got it?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is development permit 24/37. Go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is Jennifer Lee Hayes, and the owner of this property is Warren Schneider. The property is located at 7417 Township Road 120, and the zoning is Country Residential District 2. And the proposal is to run a registered dog breeding kennel. The applicant is requesting approval from MPC for a dog breeding kennel to be based in the home she's renting on the site. The property is located at 7417 Township Road 120. The zoning of subject property is Country Residential District 2 in the current land use bylaw, and the adjacent properties to the surrounding the site are all zoned Agriculture District 2. The applicant is proposing to operate a small Canadian Kennel Club registered miniature poodle breeding facility. According to the submission, the dog breeding will be of low intensity. The applicant has noted that 1 litter of puppies is expected every 1 to 2 years, and a miniature poodle usually has 3 to 5 puppies per litter. The next litter is planned for 2025. The operator has 5 dogs in their home and sometimes has 3 dogs owned by other people visit the residence. No customers will visit the site, and the kennel will have no off-site employees. No signage is proposed at the site. A dog run will be situated outside next to the residence on the site, and an indoor dog run will be built in the shop on the property. The landowner has provided consent for this proposal. Dog breeding kennels are not listed as either a permitted or discretionary use in the CR2 district. Therefore, the proposed use is best classified as an other use under the Country Residential 2 district. So under the land use bylaw, other uses category means uses that are consistent with the definition or general purpose of the applicable land use district as approved by the appropriate development authority. The general purpose and intent of the CR2 district is to provide for low-density residential and limited agricultural pursuits in the county. The proposed use is aligned with the definition and intent of the CR2 district, since the overall use of the site will remain residential. The number of dogs at the site will not cause any appreciable impacts to adjacent properties, likely no impacts, I should say. The closest adjacent residence is approximately 3,198 feet to the east of the subject property. And that is compliant with section 12.14(6) of the land use bylaw. And that section of the land use bylaw states a kennel can't be no closer than 200 meters to an adjacent residence. And this site greatly exceeds that. Permitting the site as a dog kennel would allow more dogs in the site than the 3 dogs allowed under the Responsible Dog Ownership Bylaw, 2016/09. The dogs at the subject site that are older than 3 months will require a dog license from the county. The regulations in section 12.14 of the land use bylaw are listed below, and 12.114 talks about everything from keeping the dogs in good shape and good condition, ensuring that a dog run is available, the height of the fence around the dog run, and the kennel not being any closer than 200 meters or to an adjacent residential property. So we did a circulation to our bylaw enforcement officer, and she's basically reiterated that dogs over 3 months of age must be registered. The property is ideal for a kennel, according to the bylaw enforcement, because it's not close to any other properties, and bylaw enforcement has no concerns with the issuing of a kennel permit. Our recommendation is approval, Mr. Chairman. Conditions 1 through 5 are standard development permit conditions. Condition 6, if the applicant decides at some point in the future she wants to put a sign up, she'll need to get a permit from the county for that. The applicant shall comply with the Responsible Dog Ownership Bylaw. That's condition number 7. And condition 8, it's subject to annual review. And basically that just means that we will contact the applicant once a year to say, hey, are you still in business? Has your business gotten bigger? So it's something that we keep track of. And we also have an alternate motion to refuse the permit because it doesn't comply with the general intent of the CR2 district as stated in the land use bylaw. I do have some photos I took of the site. Okay, so we're looking east, that's a vacant field. Then we're looking southeast, that's the residence. And then I noticed a fenced-in area that could have dogs in it. And the next photo, that's looking north towards Township Road 120. And then we're looking southwest. And the dog kennel, as I mentioned in the report, the dogs we kept in the house primarily. And looking south, again, we're looking at the home where the dogs will be residing. And then the next, there's a barn. There's, I believe, an indoor dog run that's going up in that barn building. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. And then here where we're looking, which direction is this? We're looking sort of southeast, I'm guessing. So, yeah, as I said, it's all vacant fields around this site, so it's not close to other residences. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Ms. Hayes, would you like to speak to your application at this time?
Sure. So basically, I am a CKC registered breeding kennel. My dogs are treated as pets. We do agility, obedience, dog shows, which is where the 3 others come along, and I take them around Canada and show them. I own a business in town for dog grooming. They come to work with me pretty well every day. So they get maintained once a week. Dogs that are trimmed down into their pet trims after are usually groomed about once a month. I have business accounts with vendors for dog food and stuff, so there's no lack of that. Yeah, they're just, they get treated as my pets. We travel, that's my business. I handle show dogs as well, so.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, as far as the location go, you can't do much around.
And they're obedient, trained, so it's not like they're gonna go taking off down the township road, because if they do, they'd probably get a, whooping, but they definitely are. Their obedience trained, their agility. We do many clinics. We also have like other dog clubs come out and they'll do like scenting work and stuff in the fields and stuff like that. So it's just open field, and we just want to put up, or I just want to put up a dog run, and just so they can go out and do their business without me having to stare at them for coyotes the whole time. But that's about it.
Okay, all right. Any discussion? Go ahead, Michelle.
No discussion, but I'll move it.
Okay. Oh, sorry, one question over here, Amanda, go ahead.
I was just curious about that. You're not going to have any customers to your property, if you could speak to that at all?
Yes, so I have a waiting list. My dogs, I have to wait actually until my dogs are fully health checked through OFAs and vet checks and x-rays and genetic testing. I have a wait list for puppies if there comes some available. I don't want people coming onto the property. I don't want signage. I don't want to be known as a puppy mill. I don't want somebody to drive up the road and be like, I can go buy a puppy there. Like, I don't want people to think that that's what it is, as it's very strictly CKC. Like, we have a very strict guidance to go by on who gets the dogs and where they go and what they're used for, and spay and neuter contracts and things like that. So I don't have customers coming to the property unless they're like somebody that were to come and pick up their dog. But usually everything we do is over like video chat. If they want to come and meet them, they can, but it's not like a frequent, it's just a quick, here you go, and kind of go on your merry way. But it's not like a business where you can come and shop. See, with CKC Kennels, you can't come, we pick the dog that goes best towards the owner. You don't get to come here and say, I want that one, because that's not how it works, because they go for your confirmation. You have your fully compromised dog, and that's the one that you'd want to send towards a breeder or somebody that's going to show it. If you have your more pet quality puppies that come out, and then that's when you say, okay, this dog would be suited for your household. And we do temperament testing and puppy cultures when they're young, so we can kind of tell like if this dog will go towards a home with children would be best, or a dog that would be best suited for an older couple. So we do all of that, so you're not getting blindsided when you get your puppy either, and you're like, oh my gosh. So yeah, that's why I don't have customers coming to the property at all.
Okay, Michelle moves approval of development permit application 24/37 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. So your development permit has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of the permit. The permit will be advertised in Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within the 21-day period, the permit will become valid at that time. If you have any questions, further questions after today's meeting, you can contact the development officer to discuss them.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, so we have a 10:30, but no one here. So let's move over into the planner's report.
Thank you, through the chair. The planner's report for May is presented for information. Also attached is the information that was provided to council, which was a summary of our land use bylaw open houses that the planning and development staff attended, 3 separate occasions. If there's any questions, conversation, dialogue, we're happy to engage.
Pretty self-explanatory. Comments sounded familiar, right? From what I read.
You're right, Wade. There wasn't really anything that was too shocking coming
Nothing
out
new,
of the.
right?
Yeah, one of the big topics has been accessory building sizes, and that's a common request that's coming forward to the Planning Commission.
See that.
And what we're hearing is that Some folks would like to see more of a ratio-based assessment based on the number of acres, the larger size of building that you can have. So we're investigating a couple of different options to bring forward in that regard, and could result in a couple of reduced applications that have to come to the MPC for oversize.
That's a good thought. Are there any other municipalities that do accessory buildings based on a, say, a ratio to size?
There are several that we're looking at. Several don't necessarily restrict building size. They restrict the number of buildings that you can have. So you get a overall square footage that you can have, and then they limit the number that you can have. So that kind of gives the landowners autonomy to be able to build structures for their use, what they're primarily needing. So that's an option that we can investigate into also. Also too, looking at reducing some of the requirements surrounding like greenhouses, personal use greenhouses for food security. You know, so looking at exempting some of those structures as well. Maybe things under 300 square feet are exempt from requiring a permit. So we're kind of looking at the thresholds. The trouble there is we need to be careful that people don't use it as a loophole. That they put a 300 square foot shed on there and say it's a greenhouse, and lo and behold, they're using it for storage. So we need to make sure that we set it up properly so we can set ourselves up for success.
So are there a lot of people that have concerns about the greenhouses, or is it more?
It seems to be more and more. There's been a handful over the last, I'd say probably year or two. The most recent here was in the hamlet of Dunmore, and Planning Commission had actually postponed that one until we could get to the land use bylaw review. However, what we're finding is for the hamlet specifically, that starts to tie into our drainage site coverage and those discussions. So we didn't want to do a knee-jerk reaction. We want to make sure that it's appropriate. Yeah. So we're taking the time to make sure that we investigate it and that it works for the purpose that it's intended to fix.
The question is there enough of a sample set when you do these meetings to really identify what the main issues are, or you just get people like the more agenda-based, participants? That's the question.
Yeah, and I think definitely there's what makes its way to the Planning Commission, but also in the background, there's all the inquiries that Aaron and Ingrid get that never make their way here because they're just choosing not to apply, right? So I think there's a lot of that history too, where we actually probably could have more developments had they complied with the bylaw. They're just not willing to go through the process. So I definitely think that there's probably quite a few that would be impacted by it.
Okay. Dan moves approval of the planner's report as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, I think I saw Mr. Pudwell walk in, so could you want to take one of the chairs up front, please? Okay, so this is subdivision application 24CY04. Mr. Pudwell and Becky, take it away, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is in Ward 2, and this is an agricultural subdivision that we're looking at, and it's number 24CY04. The owner is Kurt and Heidi Pudwell, and the applicant was Adam Thompson with Benchmark Geomatics. This property is located on Range Road 33, approximately 8.8 kilometers east of Highway 41 at northeast 913.3 west of the 4th. The land is currently zoned Agricultural District 2, and the proposal is to subdivide a 27.21 hectare parcel of land from a previously subdivided quarter section for the purposes of consolidation with the adjacent agricultural title. This application is intended to subdivide a 27.21 hectare or 67.23 acre agricultural parcel from a previously subdivided quarter section. The purpose of the proposed subdivision is to consolidate the proposed parcel with the adjacent agricultural title to enhance agricultural operations. The remainder of the agricultural title contains cultivated cropland and dryland pasture and is 62.9 hectares or 155.49 acres in size. There is an abandoned gas well within the proposed subdivision area. The parcel subject of the subdivision contains cultivated cropland. The crop continues into the quarter section immediately to the south. The applicant's intent is to consolidate both portions of cropland for the purposes of continued productivity and potential sale to the current tenant. Therefore, the proposed subdivision and consolidation would allow for the existing operations to occur within one land title. Access to the proposed parcel would be from Range Road 33, although there does not appear to be an existing access approach. The remnant lands gain access from an existing approach from Township Road 132. And I was out to site yesterday, so I'll just provide a note. There is an existing access approach from Range Road 33 to the proposed subdivision. The use of the land is to remain agriculture in nature. Therefore, land use amendment approval by Cypress County Council is not required in this instance. The proposed subdivision is located outside of the Tri-Area Intermunicipal Development Plan. Under relevant legislation, the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan states that the agriculture industry is the #1 renewable and sustainable resource. Strategies include maintaining an agricultural land base which recognizes the value of agricultural land for sustainable growth and diversification of the agricultural industry, as well as providing an opportunity for expansion for agricultural production in the region. Section 663 of the Municipal Government Act states that a subdivision authority may not require the owner of a parcel of land that is the subject of a proposed subdivision to provide reserve land or money in place of reserve land if the land to be subdivided is to be subdivided into lots of 16 hectares or more and is to be used only for agricultural purposes. Part 2.9 Road Access of the Subdivision Regulations of the Municipal Government Act states that every proposed subdivision must provide direct access to a road or lawful means of access satisfactory to the subdivision authority to each lot that is created. Section 4.1.22 Subdivision Agriculture of the Municipal Development Plan states that the county may support the subdivision of large tracts of land used for extensive dryland agricultural operations into smaller parcels used for intensive and irrigated agricultural parcels. And utility easements may be required between the proposed parcel and the remainder of the agricultural title. So we of course circulated the application and Cypress County Finances replied that there are no local improvements associated with the property. Planning and Development replied that the proposed subdivision is intended to allow for the consolidation of the cultivated portion of the adjacent parcel and will enhance agricultural productivity by allowing the crop to be contained within one Alberta land title. The consolidation will alleviate the existing encroachment over property line, allowing the parcel to be as productive as possible. The proposed subdivision and consolidation are consistent with similar subdivision approvals in the past and complies with Section 4.1.22 Subdivision Agriculture of the Municipal Development Plan. Cypress County Public Works replied that the proposed subdivision has an existing approach on the northeast corner of Range Road 33. TELUS Communications replied that they have no concerns with the proposed activities. 40 Mile Gas replied that they have no conflict with the proposed subdivision. And Alberta Environment and Protected Areas replied that they have no comments under the Water Act. So that takes me to my recommended motion, Mr. Chairman, and that's approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, the developer is required to consolidate the subdivided 27.2 hectare portion contained within Certificate of Title 231-235075 with the adjacent agricultural title. The consolidation is to be registered in conjunction with the registration of the subdivision plan with Alberta Land Titles. And number 2 is our standard condition. The developer is required to supply copies of any utility right-of-way plans, easements, and/or agreements which are to be registered as a requirement for any affected utilities to Cypress County prior to the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. And that is my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Becky. Mr. Pedwell, would you like to speak to your application at this time? You good? Okay. Any discussion? It's logical, it makes sense. Yeah. Okay. I'll entertain a motion. Who hasn't made one? Amanda? So Amanda moves approval of subdivision application 24CY04 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. All right, so your subdivision has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will now mail you a copy of your subdivision approval. You're advised to begin working towards completing the necessary conditions and making arrangements made to have the approved subdivided area surveyed if you have not already done so. You have 1 year from the subdivision's approval date to have met all of the conditions and to have the survey plan submitted to Alberta Land Titles by your surveyor for the registration of the separate title. If you have any further questions, you can contact the planner after today's meeting. Thank you. Okay, so we're well ahead of schedule. Mr. Schlinker, would you take one of the chairs up front, please? Are you expecting anybody else, or are you just by yourself? Okay, all right. So this is development application 24/63. Go ahead, Aaron.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is Remcom Builders and the owner is Stephen Macini. The address of the site is 25 Dunes Way. The applicant is requesting approval from MPC for the construction of a residence with a proposed setback distance of 2.13 meters from the rear property line. This results in a setback relaxation request of 5.47 meters, about 20 feet. The front setback is 7.6 meters in the RRR district, and the application is proposing a 5.28, 17.3 setback, which results in a 2.3 meter variance at the closest point from the house to Dunes Way. The garages propose a front setback of about 7.04 meters, 23 feet, which is adequate to park a vehicle in front of the garage without it encroaching onto the boulevard or sidewalk. The development is proposed to include an attached garage, covered decks, and a driveway. The application and site plan that have been submitted by the developer has a front door situated on the west side of the house. The land use bylaw defines the front property line as being the side in which the main entrance is located. In consideration of this, the front property line faces west to Dunes Way in accordance with the land use bylaw. In this scenario, the development requires a setback relaxation to the rear property line and front property line. The proposed orientation of the home is consistent with the layout of adjacent properties in this phase of Desert Bloom. Some of MPC might remember that a almost identical configured house was approved on this site by MPC back in October 2022 as DP 22/242. The application was appealed by the neighbors to the SDAB in November 22, and the commission's approval was upheld by the appeal board. The applicant ended up withdrawing his application in February 23. The configuration of this proposed house is very, very similar to what was proposed previously, and this configuration is also very similar to the house located to the south that was approved by MPC as DP 22/138. In accordance with section 16.61 of the land use bylaw, the development authority can review each development permit application and determine its compliance with the bylaw. When a development permit application includes variances, requests for discretionary uses, the development authority does have the ability to grant variances if the following tests are met. The application does not unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or materially interfere with or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring parcels of land, and the proposed development conforms with the use prescribed for that land or building in the land use bylaw. Under land use bylaw 22/09, under the RRR district, section 6.6.1, a residence is considered a permitted use provided the proposal complies with the minimum setback requirements of the district. Under 6.62, the minimum rear yard setback for that district is 7.6 meters, and the minimum front yard is also 7.6 meters, about 25 feet in this district. In addition, it states the maximum site coverage, including landscaping, is not to include 45% of the lot area. The total site coverage for this proposed house would be 40.4%, according to the stamped plans, storm drainage plan that we received from Chef-Ranji with the application. The plan also shows the design of the proposed dwelling, single detached, exhibits positive drainage away from the house to the roadway and concrete swale located at the south of the property site, subject site. The minimum area of a lot accommodating a dwelling, single detached shall be a minimum of 600 square meters. The proposed lot area is 866 square meters. The lot width shall be no less than 15 square meters as measured from the front yard. The subject site meets the area and width requirements of the land use bylaw. In section 22, terms and words, corner lot means a lot having frontage on one or two more streets and situated at an intersection. The front shall be considered the side in which the main entrance of the principal dwelling is. If one meets the requirements of section 6.2 and section 22 of the land use bylaw for this corner lot, the developable area for this lot, if you meet all the setbacks, would be an area of approximately, 155 square meters. So that'd be a really tiny house that you could fit on here without needing a variance. So this building envelope would, as I said, only accommodate a very small dwelling without requiring variances. If the narrow frontage was considered the front, all the setbacks for this application would have been acceptable based on the setbacks listed in 6.6.2. Lot line front means the property line adjacent to a public roadway other than a lane. And in this case, of more than one property line adjacent to a public roadway, the front property line shall be the direction that the front door of the building faces. So the front property line, as I said before, would be facing west. So in this instance, a variance of 2.3 meters, 7.6 feet, is requested for the portion of the front setback. The proposed variances and location of the house do not impact utility rights of way on this lot. And the height of the structure is 8.58 meters, about 28 feet, which is compliant with the land use bylaw. The recommended motion is approval. The conditions 1 through 15 are standard conditions for single detached houses, and permit-specific conditions for this application would be number 16, approving a setback relation of 5.47 meters, 19.9 feet from the rear property line. And condition number 17, setback relaxation at 2.3 meters, 7.6 feet from the front property line for the proposed residence and attached garage. There's also an alternate motion that NPC can consider. I do have some photos of this site that I can show you. So we're looking towards the west from the site, and there's houses under construction across the street. Now we're looking east, that's the neighbor's property, and I'm standing on the subject site. Then I'm looking southeast here, and again, it's the subject site over on the right. And looking north, houses. Southeast, we're looking towards the back of the adjacent property and the building site. And looking south, the house that you can see directly south is the one that MPC approved back in 2022 previously. And we're looking southwest, there's Dunes Way and the proposed building site. And here is sort of the lot plan from Chef Andrew for this lot. And what's really interesting here is it shows that the recommended driveway location is facing west. And if you were to place the driveway in this lot facing north, you'd have a conflict with that corner. So the only logical safe place to put the driveway would be facing west in this instance. Yeah, it would be very difficult to meet the land use bylaw requirements for this particular parcel due to the way our setbacks are determined, and also the fact that having a driveway on the north side of that lot onto Dunes Way might not be the safest thing. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Aaron. Mr. Schlinker, would you like to speak to the application at this time? Go ahead. Yep. Push the button there. Yep, you got it.
So I guess the picture that's up there now, when my customer, Mr. Massini, bought the lot, they received this, and it shows the proposed driveway location, which shows it on the side. So that's how we designed the home. And I guess the only thing I want to add is the design of the home. So other than a side deck that he uses for barbecuing only, it's a small deck for barbecuing, the main deck is out front over the garage, so that won't impact any of the neighbors. That basically overlooks the golf course out front. So it doesn't impact the neighbors behind or beside, so.
All right, thank you. Open floor to discussion. Go ahead, Nigel.
I just want to make sure I understood you correctly, Aaron. So basically you're saying that if the main entrance had been on the north side of the house and the same footprint, all the setbacks would have been met?
Through the chair, that is correct. If the driveway and front entrance would have been facing north, the setbacks, proposed setbacks would have worked. Thank you.
I mean, this design is logical, and we've dealt with this before. The one concern I do have, though, is within the land use bylaw, maybe we should be identifying these sites earlier so that the person buying beside isn't buying with the perception that something different will be going on the site. It just makes sense that we make things clear to developers and people developing in the surrounding area that this site may have an amended setback situation. I wouldn't have wanted to bought that lot thinking, oh, they'll never be able to build this on there, and then all of a sudden, boom, there it is. So that's one of the concerns I have, and I don't know how we address that within the land use bylaw because the setbacks are pretty much well defined. But go ahead,
Mr.
Aaron.
Chairman, that's one thing we're reviewing as part of the land use bylaw review is how to look at corner lots.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's my only statement. Anything else? Dan moves approval of development application 24/63 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. So your development permit has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The development permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within the 21-day period, the permit will become valid at that time. If you have any questions, you may contact the planner after today's meeting to discuss them. Thank you. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is closed session. So I will undertake a motion to leave the meeting and go into closed session. Dan moves approval of the closed session discussion. What's that? Yeah. All those in favor? Colleen? Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're out of in-camera right now. So now we'll accept a motion from Michelle to approve the presentation from Kayleen and Becky. All those, the information received. All those in favor? Carried. I'll adjourn the meeting. No, next meeting is June 11th.
Everybody's trying to reboot their computers. You already.
I already adjourned. Okay, I adjourn the meeting.